Mojuba, Ibae. I pay homage to all the gurus, the great realizers, from time immemorial to the present. Libation. Igom Mojuba, Ibae. I pay homage to all my spiritual ancestors and predecessors who came before us, who paved the way for us, who left their legacy and their spiritual DNA, who modeled for us the life of Dharma and the model of self-realization and God realization. Libation. Sangha Mojuba, Ibae. I pay homage to all the Sangats and spiritual communities who preserve the Dharma in all its various forms, in books, in art, in architecture, to all of the Sangats who maintain and sustain the Dharma out of their love for truth. I pay homage to all the Sangats and spiritual communities who left their model and their legacy of love for our Sangha. Libations. San Sadguru Mojuba Ibae. I pay homage to my own living Sadguru who has made sacrifices on my behalf, who has loved me and continues to love me, who nurtures me, who gives me his sadhana wisdom and his dharma, and who models for me the condition that I too wish to realize in this lifetime. Libations.
think, beloved, what we will do is continue some further elaborations on the workshop prior to the song today. And I think I would like to engage you in the consideration of your view of God and how it relates to your individual search for happiness. Perhaps it is in our individual search for happiness that our operating view of God is most clearly seen. This morning, perhaps there was a little difficulty sensing and identifying the view of God that you have been operating from since your childhood. After all, many years are piled on top of that. And it does take some time and energy, and most of all, attention to recover recognition of your primeval and original view of God, fabricated in your childhood. So, fortunately, we can approach the same quest from a different angle, and hopefully this approach will enable you to get in touch just a little bit more with the rediscovery of your original concept of God. So we will begin by looking at the kinds of levels or stages of our own individual search for happiness, and how each level of the search for happiness, by definition, reflects one's concept of God, you see. And so we will start at the bottom, since that's where most of us begin in our journeys. And then, as we did this morning, simply make yourself very conscious and aware of your own individual and personal strategy that you are using to find and have happiness. It is this impulse and search for happiness that characterize the underlying motive in all human behavior. Not just human behavior. It underlies, characterizes the behavior of all living things. Everything with life is involved in this same search, from the amoeba to the gods. The question that you must examine, the consideration you must engage in, is a very honest examination of your principal strategy by which you are also attempting, like everyone else and everything else in this creation, to find happiness. There is, first and foremost, the material level of the search for happiness. Please make a note. We won't drag out the board and all of that. It's too inconvenient to jump up and down here. Besides, I'm tired. So the material level of the search for happiness is one of the means that you can observe that characterizes millions of people principal strategy by which they try to have happiness. There's all kinds of examples of what the material strategy for finding happiness looks like. The word reveals its chief characteristic. It is material. The presumption is that happiness is based on how much stuff, material stuff, I can accumulate. Furniture, cars, houses, clothes, jewelry, so forth and so on. All of these are just different forms of material things that we pursue as our principal means of finding happiness. And remember, I'm asking you to find your principal means. As we go through this hierarchy, if you will, or the developmental stages of the search for happiness, you will recognize a kind of overlapping and overlaying and so forth and so on. But the exercise that you are to engage in today is to see what is your principal strategy by which you are trying to fulfill yourself and have happiness. And one of the ways you can also search for that principal strategy is simply look at what occupies most of your time, energy, and attention. Of all of the different kinds of activities you are engaged, simply reflect along with our conversation today and see, not philosophically, not psychologically, see it like you see the color blue. See it clearly so that you may be able to come away today with some understanding about the prospects for having happiness based on your personal style and strategy for pursuing happiness. Fair? Everybody on the same page? Now, of course, the material level of the search for happiness is always the least fulfilling. Anybody dare to take a guess why? The material level is so unsatisfying? Right. It's very temporary. It's impermanent. And so that's a no-brainer. Just testing to make sure you remember your Dharma 101. Right. It's impermanent, corruptible. The great Jesus says, lay up not your treasures on earth where they will be corrupted, etc., etc. It's that argument, you see. And that becomes the experience of the person whose principal strategy and search for happiness is based on the accumulation of things. What are some examples of the kind of material things, in addition to what I've already mentioned, that you can see and that you yourself are involved in for the sake of being happy? Home ownership, yeah. What else? We won't exhaust it. I already said clothes. I took care of all the women in them. Right? Money, fundamentally, right? All of that material search can be summed up under one word: money. Is that all right? Your principal strategy in order to achieve happiness and fulfillment is the accumulation of money. And you're trying to get as much money as humanly possible without breaking crimes, although some will break crimes and so forth, you see, fundamentally. So that this money can be converted into things. That's the value of money. Money can get you what? Stuff. All right? So it's just a contrived mechanism by which we mutually agree to give each other stuff. You see. But it's stuff. It's still about stuff, isn't it? And principally material. So you need to examine your principal strategy by which you personally are seeking self-fulfillment and happiness on the basis of materialism, and see its fallacy, see its limitation, so forth and so on. Now, you may add something to that most fundamental level, the search for fulfillment and happiness. In addition to materialism, you might add the next stage of the search and quest for self-fulfillment and happiness, which is at the physical level. The physical, biological level. What does that consist of?
Sex.
No, not yet. That's next. Food, right? Food, right? Bodily comfort. You want your principal strategy for having happiness to get you a belly full of food and then go to sleep. Right? To maintain this body in a state of perfect comfort, right? And satiation, right? Fundamentally, right? So your principal strategy is eating and sleeping. You know, real fundamental. You see, nothing extraordinary about that. You see, squirrels are doing the same. Your life looks very much like a squirrel's life or any other animal. It is the animal level of life, isn't it? Huh? Physical. Food, clothing, shelter. They're not just necessities for you. They are your principal strategy by which you really feel you will be able to become infinitely and ultimately and absolutely fulfilled, i.e. happy. That about right? But those who have pursued that level of the search for happiness soon discover that having stuff and having food still leaves you unfulfilled. That the happiness that you are seeking is still not the case. And so your search expands and looks for something more to incorporate into your strategy and search for self-fulfillment. You add the emotional level of the search to your existing repertoire. Is that about right? So now you can find thousands of people for whom the emotional sexual level is their primary level in their search for self-fulfillment and happiness. The level of personal relationships, you're looking for a husband, you're looking for a wife, you're looking for somebody to love you. You understand what I'm saying? And your presumption is that if I can just find the right man, the right woman, the right set of human beings and to make my life with, I will be happy. You see? Even if I don't accumulate all of the material things in life, even if I don't get a big house, get a big car, even if we don't have food to eat sometime, if I just got the right man, and if I just got the right woman, I can fulfill my quest for happiness. This is the fundamental presumption that underlies that psychology of the search for happiness at the level of emotions, relationship, sex. You follow me? And so you need to examine, and examine very honestly. Today we're not talking about the philosophy of the value of that and all that. We may touch it here and there, but that's not the emphasis today. The emphasis today is for you to honestly take a look at and see where your own personal strategy will fall in this unfoldment of the possible ways in which humans, since time immemorial, have searched for happiness. And you mustn't deceive yourself. You must bring bone-crushing honesty to this work to have any payoff at all. Otherwise, you will remain confused about it, scattered about it. You see, all over the place. You must really see, and then examine and evaluate your principle and see if it is indeed this simple pursuit of man and woman. That is the principal source of your self-fulfillment and happiness. Now, as we just briefly travel through these, we will then open up the floor and we can process this to whatever degree we will have time to process it today. I'm sure we will not exhaust the subject, but I am bringing it to your attention since it follows from our earlier workshop today. I have already pointed out how your view of God dictates your worldview and how that in turn dictates your attitudes and responses to the world, how that produces in you all kinds of emotional and mental states, and those emotional and mental states translates into behavior, which translate into your life and its quality. And the most important consequence of your worldview for every human being is how it aids you in your pursuit of happiness. That's the bottom line, you see. That's the bottom line for everyone. So you can begin to unpack going backwards, right? Now, for instance, the person whose fundamental search for happiness consists of the pursuit of material things, what do you think, first of all, will be their primary emotional state? Craving? Yeah. Yeah, that's one. What else? Greed. There you go. What else? Huh?
Unsatisfied.
Well, we know it's unsatisfied. That's what makes the move. What else? Lust. There you go.
And
Fear.
Attachment will be a big one, right? Fear, right? Vanity, because look what I got. That's another level of it, but that's possible, isn't it? Right? Again, what we're looking at is the actual inner and subjective condition of the state of mind and emotions of a person whose principal strategy for finding self-fulfillment and happiness is characterized by the pursuit of material things, and material things primarily. You see, some people you'll find, that's all they're pursuing. They're not interested in anything above that. Just stuff. You follow me? Now try to imagine what is their inner subjective condition, right? Profile that. And if you can see that, then try to imagine further what must be their attitudes toward life and others and self. I mean, are you beginning to intuit all of that? You see? What kind of attitude would they even have toward life and toward others? I mean, have you thought about it? If, for instance, if I can't own you, Honorable, I have no use for you. It's possession. Even people are seen as cards. Right? Everything is objectified. Everything is made into a utility. It's made into something material. I don't relate to you if you got any emotions or feelings or any of that. I relate to you as a material. You my husband, and I use you, you know, pretty much like I use any other material objects to try to give myself some experience of happiness and fulfillment, right? It just makes me feel good. I got a husband. I don't talk to him, you know. But I got all this stuff. It's the vanity piece that Buddha Dasa said, right? I got a Mercedes, I got a husband, I got a house, You see, I got a HD TV, or you see you see, I got stuff. You just more stuff. Or it's the same with women. For many men, that's all it is. It's just stuff.
Relationships could be replaceable too.
Yeah, they
With something better.
Yeah, a better man, a better woman. It's just stuff. It's not personal. Just stuff. Like you trade off TVs, get a new model. Get you a new model man. Get you a new model woman. Material. You understand my drift now? So all of that stuff that we talked about this morning, because there's not nearly enough time for me to go through all that. You're simply going to have to add to that argument, this argument that is unfolding now, okay? And you really got to go sit somewhere and you really got to see all of this stuff. So we see this material level, we see this physical level, just this food and so forth. You can easily imagine what is the internal state and condition of a person for whom eating and sleeping and bodily comfort is their primary strategy for being fulfilled and happy. You can easily profile what's really going on in their innermost mind. Is that about right? Food, it'll even show up in their bodies, all over the place. Lifestyle, you go to a house, there's no furniture, but you have a pantry and 3 refrigerators and all full of food. Because I don't need no bed, we sleep on the floor. I got food. You understand what I'm talking about? Or I got all these clothes and all these shoes, you see. No bed. Just clothes. Because that's what's important. What's important to you tells you much about what your principal strategy for having happiness and finding self-fulfillment is really about. It's even reflected at the level of your values. Or the relationship level, you see? So forth and so on. But if not the material, physical, emotional levels of the search for happiness, then you will also observe that there is a kind of mental / intellectual strategy that characterize many people primary means by which they search for and feel they will be happy. If I can know the right thing, you see, or know the right people, you see. If I just knew more, if I had more information. You see, we live in the age of information, and one of the reasons that the internet is what it is today and hooking up all the, because there is a almost unquenchable quest out here for information. Bookstores, libraries, and that person's whole life is devoted to the pursuit and the acquisition of information based on the presumption that the more information I get, the more I will be in a position to create happiness for myself. You see? That's their principal strategy. Some are involved in that strategy at the level of pathology. You see my point? The iconoclasts or the eccentrics. You see them in science, philosophy, everywhere. Right? They spend their whole life in library. They don't have a car. They have 2 pairs of pants. They have no relationships. They don't. You know what I mean? That's all they do. They spend their whole life in front of the computer. There's people out here who live on the internet. They don't sleep, or sleep very little. You know what I mean? But that's what they're always about. They're trying to figure it out. They're constantly seeking more information so they can figure out. And what are they trying to figure out?
How to be happy.
How to be happy. You see? How to be happy. guaranteed happy now. You see my point? Because they don't want to make no mistake about it.
Yeah.
You see, how can I calculate the activity that produced happiness with the same kind of precision, you know, that calculus gives me in mapping out the trajectory of a missile that I wish to send to the moon?
Mm-hmm.
They're very fond of rational stuff, you see, because they're looking for that same kind of accuracy, you know, accurate within plus or minus 1 degree, you see? And they are constantly consuming information for that purpose of improving their ability to calculate the right woman. You follow what I'm saying? Now, they're not dating any woman. They're sitting back with their calculators. Oh, she's 6 feet 4. Oh, I rule her out. Or this one, she's black. Or this one is white. Or this one ain't got no hips. Or this one. I mean, they're just sitting with their calculator, trying to calculate and come up with a formula that will, they can go out straight away and out of 3 billion women, find the right one. They will not have to waste no time. You see? They want information. You want information so you can be accurate.
You think they want to market it too?
They're marketing it to their write a book, How to Find the Perfect Mate. Follow this formula, so forth and so on. You all get my point? So there is a kind of strategy for finding happiness and achieving self-fulfillment that has as its primary presumption and need more information is the ticket to finding real happiness. They may be engaged in some of the other forms of strategy, but they're peripheral. See, again, remember, your task is to find out what is your principal one, not exclusive one, principal one. Because the truth is that for the majority of people, some of all of the ones I just mentioned, you are involved in at some level, but there is a principal one. That's what you got to find today, or begin to search for. You're looking for your principal one. Scientists, you see, mad scientists, you see, blowing themselves up in labs and blowing up the world with H-bombs and so forth and so on. Charlie insists today that he
calling you, Bhagwan.
Bhagwan, what do you want, Charlie? Too late for you, Charlie. Should have listened last time. Charlie can't ask no more questions. So you'll see how lucky you are. At least you all in a body that can form an intelligent question. Charlie trying his best. Shouldn't have messed up his human life. Can I tell you? Yeah. I'm ignoring him. Now, in addition, you have these mad scientists and so forth who are making bombs and all kinds of things. You see my point? Their search. I mean, it's really quite fascinating when you reflect on it. Besides those, there's also the possibility that some will have as their primary strategy by which they seek self-fulfillment and ultimate happiness, the strategy of aesthetics, the beautiful, you see, creative strategy, you see, creativity that becomes their principal strategy by which they seek to find and have happiness. Creative in the sense that they create music for themselves, you see. The musician who is married to his instrument, fundamental, because his music that he creates with his instrument is the principal source that he or she pursues happiness. I'm happy when I'm playing my own, and not otherwise. When I put it down, I'm a wreck. You see, that's a Miles Davis. You must live with your horn in your mouth. Always involved in the creative process of making music, you see? 24/7. I mean, co-train practice 12 hours a day. You see? Thelonious Monk, you all know these people. You see my point? Take them out of their music and you might as well take their life. Music is their life. Or it's art. You see my point? Painting, sculpture, those kind of things. You see. And that becomes your principal pursuit. That's what absorbs most of your time and energy. Years ago, I used to work with an artist. Unfortunately, most of them are not successful, so they have to work, right? Those who have not become insane and completely emotionally disordered, because many of them, they're not even sane anymore, you see? In the sense that they can function in the world and take care of themselves. But I work with an artist who and this was his principal strategy, you see? And I was young then, maybe 20, my early 20s, and he was an older man, middle-aged, maybe 45, somewhere between 45 and 50. And this had been his whole life. No marriage, no kids, you know what I mean? No material things, no money and stuff like that, just painting. And he would come to work, you know what I mean? And, you know, with the bags on his eyes, we both have our bags. Mine, of course, I've been out partying somewhere. He'd been drawing all night long. He didn't even sleep. As soon as he got home, he got to his easel. He was a good artist, incidentally. You know what I mean? With that amount of time and energy, you got to be good. Just unfortunate it never happened for him. You know what I mean? It's the case with many artists. But he would sketch all night. The writer, right, all night long. Because in their writing, you see, they are able to create for themselves a world in their own mind that they can enter into and get a sense of self-fulfillment and happiness. And that becomes their principal strategy. You all get my point?
Yes, sir.
So the creative / aesthetic strategy characterize many of our primary strategies by which we are trying to achieve happiness and self-fulfillment. Some people like Michael Jackson make their own body their own canvas. And so they're into their bodies, you know, they everything, tuck here, tuck there, cut here. They're trying to beautify the physical body, and many women are lost in it. That's their whole focus, is looking good. Now, we all as men can appreciate a good-looking woman, but damn, that shouldn't take you 5 hours. You see what I'm saying? We done missed shows, the show done started, the food. I mean, you still putting your stuff on, you know what I mean? I'm sitting out in the car waiting on you. But many women get lost in that. And that's because that's culturally induced too. And you all know about that. You all get my point? There is still yet an additional kind of strategy that you can observe that people resort to for the sake of achieving self-fulfillment and happiness. And that is the religious / occult strategy. Now you begin to see how this connects with God. All of them do, but this one becomes very clear, doesn't it? I mean, it leaps out at you, doesn't it? Where the pursuit and involvement in religious activity become their primary strategy by which they pursue self-fulfillment and happiness, you see. So the church and all of the activities associated with the church, you know what I mean? From the chicken dinner to the singing, all of that is very important. Nothing can be missed. One enters into a kind of relationship with God, you see, for the sake of being happy. Now there's a confession that I have failed. I've tried. You see, I've tried material stuff, and either I got it and it was empty, or I didn't have enough power to get enough of material things I need. You see, in any case, I'm turning to you, God, right? You've tried the route of the physical approach toward self-fulfillment and happiness, and you found out you couldn't eat, you done ate yourself into a state of misery. Now you got diabetes and gout, and now you sick, your body all messed up. God, you know, now you turn to God. You know what I mean? I failed. Or at the emotional sexual relationship level, right? You've been divorced 12 times now, right? Or you can't find any woman or any man in spite of your search or so-called search, which always amazes me. 3 billion women and you can't find one. I mean, that's not even mathematically sane, you know? Get me started. But in any case, you have failed to be able to fulfill yourself at the level of sex and emotions and relationships, so forth. So you turn to God. I can't find a husband, so I go to church now. You follow what I'm saying? Give my life to Jesus, right? Or devote myself to Islam or any of the other isms. You see, doesn't matter. Same motive. So religion now becomes a strategy by which you are seeking self-fulfillment and happiness. You become, quote unquote, a religious brother or a religious sister. And you turn to God now to do for you what you see you couldn't do for yourself. And so your fundamental proposition is that, God, I'll worship you. In return, you give me the happiness that I've been seeking. If not religion in the conventional sense of the word, then occultism. And by that rubric, I mean all of the magic, divination systems, tarot, palmistry, astrology, so forth and so on. All of that occultism is purposed for the same reason that one pursues religion. You're looking and appealing to an outside force and power that you can appeal to or manipulate that will bring you the happiness that your prior strategies failed to deliver. So that means I need to kill 3 chickens to get a wife and just point out where I go get these chickens because I'm ready to bushel. You understand? And I will give about any amounts of money to read the Udu and tell me what I need to do to get a wife. Sad goal, you see? Same fundamental motive and principle and presumption underlies the question. But there are strategies beyond that, you see? Again, as we're talking, don't forget, because I have to keep bringing you all the attention back because your attention tends to wander off and thinking about all this stuff I'm saying philosophically, and you take your eye off of yourself. I'm asking you, just hear what I'm saying. Don't get into philosophizing it and psychologizing it and comparing it to your opinion and all that. Just stay with looking. Just stay looking at this thing. You see, what do you want, Charlie? Too late, Charlie. You understand my point?
Yes, sir.
You see. Look and see. Like you see the color blue. What you really up to in terms of your pursuit for self-fulfillment and happiness. Really see what you up to. Confront it. Bring great honesty to it. You don't have to condemn yourself. I'm not asking you to condemn yourself, to make any moral pronouncement about it. That's not useful. The emphasis is on seeing. Upana, right view, see this thing. Because until and unless you see it, then you will always be the helpless victim of your own unconscious motives. You see? You will simply just go through life just semi-conscious, just with just enough consciousness to dress yourself and perform the rudimentary activities. You see my point? Always wondering why you're not happy. Always. Always confused about it. You know you're not as happy as you want to be, but you don't know why or what to do about it at all, because you have not looked. As you're making this investigation, also look and see how you anesthetize yourself and give yourself relief from your fundamental experience of unhappiness. Look at it. That also give you an insight. Look how are you anesthetizing yourself? Drugs, alcohol, you're drinking a lot, shopping a lot, you're anesthetizing yourself. Sure you are. Some of it. Because those strategies that we've talked about thus far doesn't give you exactly what you want. Yes, there are moments. We all must confess that is true, isn't it? There are moments when the strategies do deliver some pleasure. But you have to understand, all pleasure is relief from pain. Pleasure is itself not a primary phenomenon. It's a byproduct of you follow me, of pain. That's why there can't be, any pleasure without pain, literally speaking. Pain is a necessary state to be in order for you even to have the experience of pleasure. Because that's all pleasure is. It's a temporary relief from your pain, and we find ways to do that, don't we? All right? A temporary relief from your unhappiness. That's all your moments of satisfaction have been, isn't it? After that satisfaction evaporates, and it does evaporate, doesn't it? Then you right back to your unhappy condition. Right? I get married at 6 months, that's it. You see my point? Now I'm right back to my unhappy condition. Now I need something else beside a wife. I thought I needed a wife. I thought having her would do it, or having him would do the trick. But it turns out, damn, I done messed myself up. I got less happiness and less time to get busy on finding it. You understand what I'm saying? So even the happiness that you've been able to find, the temporary variety of happiness, is simply a momentary relief from your otherwise fundamental, chronic, and continuous state of unhappiness. And so you can look and see and examine. Has your principal strategy that you are operating with for the sake of self-fulfillment and happiness, has it given you anything other than temporary fulfillment and satisfaction and momentary relief? Answer the question. Yourself. You don't have to tell me your answer or the person sitting next to you. It's nobody's business. This is your business. This is your business. You see, you spend so much time in other people's business that you neglected your own business. I'm calling you to mind your own business in the real sense of the word. Mindfulness, your own business now. So even beyond the religious, occult level of the search for self-fulfillment and happiness lies additional forms of the search. But before I discuss those, again, remember, as you look through this later on today, be able to hook it all up, right? See that etiology and genesis of your strategy based on your view of God. See how all that is related. See all the steps in between that. You see? This accelerates your liberation from your unconscious programs. And I must say one other thing is that all of those stages that we've talked about thus far pretty much will categorize 99.9% of all human beings on the planet going to fall into somewhere or some combination. Almost no human being goes beyond the religious, occult, pseudo-scientific level of the search for self-fulfillment and happiness. Never bust that barrier. Never go beyond that. Just a few rare kinds of human beings who are really earnest, you see, about the search for happiness. There are even degrees of earnestness about it. While it is true we all are impulsed by definition and in structure to pursue happiness, but some are more earnest about it than others. Some will make the attempt at any of these levels. If there's no immediate gratification, they quit. These are the quitters of life. They quit the search. And they live out their life in a state of apathy. And if you open up their head and stuck and took a look in there, at their psychology, what you would see is that they are living principally in a state of apathy and hopelessness. That's how they live. They have abandoned the whole attempt. You see? Not in a positive sense like the mystics, but in a very pathological sense, like the insane person. You see? Very often they become suicidal, so forth and so on. A lot of depression, a lot of, feelings of victimizations. You all know what I'm talking about. And all kinds of strategies for now anesthetizing themselves. They ain't trying to be happy. They're just trying to, minimize their unhappiness. They're not even trying to be happy. They're just trying to take away a little of this pain as best they can, so they can just, carry on. For them, it's about coping. And remember, coping is not equal to being happy. Please make a note. So if your principal strategy in life is just to cope, then there you have it. That tells you where you're at. Coping is necessary. Don't misunderstand me, but it's not equal to what you're looking for. But beyond the conventional level of the strategies that we resort to in our pursuit of self-fulfillment and the attainment of happiness lies the spiritual strategy. And you all obviously can appreciate the distinction between the spiritual and the religious. And I don't have to go there with you. The spiritual strategy. And what characterizes the spiritual strategy from the prior kinds of strategies that we've been talking about is that the prior strategies are external. You see? The spiritual is internal. And you can even begin to see now the kind of view of God that produces that kind of strategy, right? If, for instance, if I see God as the source of love, right, and I'm earnest and true to my view, right? If I see God as the source of love, then I'm going to be trying to go into God, right? And God is within, you see. That's why I said this is not the same as religious. And occult view of God is that God is up in heaven somewhere, in the sky behind, some cumulus clouds or somewhere on the left side of the Milky Way or something. You see? But that's the religious concept of God. You see, it's external, physical, subtle but physical nevertheless. The spiritual level of the strategy, and it is a strategy, okay? You are not fundamentally different from others. It's just that your strategy has evolved. But it's still the pursuit of the same thing, right? What you're doing is no more, quote unquote, legitimate than what the alcoholic is doing. He's looking for the same thing. He's just looking for his in a bottle, or in some drugs, or some food, or in a Mercedes, or in a house, or in a relationship. But it's a legitimate search, isn't it?
Sure.
Same human search. It's just that the spiritual individual has understood things in a different way, have a different attitude, and therefore a different emotional experience of the world as well as different behavior in the world. And their pursuit of happiness is within. The spiritual strategy includes the world of meditation, yoga, that kind of thing, you see. Sadhana, various forms of spiritual practices, all designed to gain access into one's own consciousness, to follow the instructions of the great realizers. You see, when Jesus come and say the kingdom of God within, this person takes that exactly on the basis of Jesus' statement. It is within. And that's where they start looking. It's within. They follow the masters, you see, who have come among us from time to time. But that is still not the highest level of this quest that human beings engage for the sake of self-fulfillment and happiness. There is another level and stage of that whole development process, and that is the mystic journey. Now, it's a whole other animal. In some sense, it's almost like what happened to the person in a state of profound apathy who would just abandon the quest. But something like that happens at the mystic level of the strategy. The whole quest for happiness is abandoned. Not because it's impossible to achieve, it is abandoned because there is the recognition and the realization that I am already happy. The mystic strategy is different because at that level of the search itself ends because of this recognition that I am and have always already been happy. And the search stops. And real happiness is experienced. The happiness that can be found via your search is not the real thing. Please make a note. Any happiness that is a consequence of a search, high or low, that's not real happiness. Even the sannyasi who is lost in sadhana and able to go into the consciousness and have experiences of lights and visions of great beings and astral journeys and so forth and so on, in spite of that, that is still phenomena. That too is impermanent. You follow what I'm saying? That too ends, right? The moment you come out of samadhi, you're right back where you started. You see, the internal experience that makes up all of the kinds of confessions of yogis, all of that is also impermanent. Maybe the fulfillment is intense and all of that, you see, but what it shares with all of it is that it's all impermanent. And it does not last. The mystic strategy and journey is that journey whereby one recognizes one's own inherent condition as already happy. And this is a whole nother experience. So, briefly, I've talked about some of the different kinds of strategies that we as human beings engage in for the sake of happiness. And the responsibility of each and every one of you sitting there is to examine this and evaluate your strategy. No fooling. No kidding. So you have an option. You can continue involved in your strategy and those activities that you have presumed will yield happiness, or you can simply recognize happiness already. It's your choice. But you must choose, clearly. But what is it, you see, beloveds, that even sets the search for happiness in motion? I've said on many occasions, you've read on many occasions, not just things that I might have produced or said inside something, but it has been said since time immemorial, right? That the search for happiness is innate, right? Inherent. True. But that does not mean that there is something that is responsible for it being innate. That there isn't a even more profound matter going on that is generating the search in the first place. So as we move a little deeper into our consideration this afternoon, I wish to pose to you that question. What is it that underlies and is the source of the search in the first place for happiness? Now, I only got a few minutes, so I can't sit here all day. Yes, Ketera? Just take a stab at it.
I was just going to say that felt sense of this isolation, separateness. But
Yeah, that's got a part of it. That's got a part of it, is that the search is a response and reaction to the felt sense of loneliness, aloneness, unhappiness, separation, ego, etc. It's a good one.
But you had experienced it before.
And maybe you've experienced it before. That's another good one. All of these are good, also incidentally. I mean, so that's a testament to the fact that you all have given this some real consideration. I think the simplest way to sum it up is as follows. The reason that we seek to have happiness, to make ourselves happy, is not so much because of our ego and our misidentification with it as being who and what we are, but rather sort of in the direction, Anadaj, that you were taking us. The search and impulse to make ourselves happy is based on the reality and the truth that we love ourselves. You love your true self. Not your ego. You love your true self. And you want to make your true self happy. Just like you want to make anything you love happy. It just comes with the territory. But this is subtle. You love your true self. And because you love your true self, there is this effort to make your true self happy. And what is this true self?
So,
You call it the soul, but that's too abstract. What is this? It's it's really simple. Subconsciousness, we got all kinds of words. But let me give you a the most simple answer to the question, who am I, that has ever been offered, at least in my humble opinion, by those who have found out who they are. And it's true of every one of us. Your true self and who you really are is just this: life. Life. L-I-F-E. Life. You are life. And you love your life. That's why you try to make yourself happy. Because you love your life. It's not the body. It's not the mind. It's the life that is flowing through the body-mind that you love. But being misidentified with your body and mind and emotions, you follow me?
Yes.
You think the impulse is arising because you have a body. No, the body has arisen because you love. Life precedes the existence of the body. You are life. Tatwamasi. Ahambramasi, I am life. And it is life that creates this body. Interesting?
Yes.
Not the other way around. Life creates consciousness. Consciousness creates the mind. Mind creates the senses and all of that. You see? Manas, buddhi, ahankara, so forth. And that in turn creates this body. And the body creates the world through sensory impact. It takes a seed of nothing. Go ask any quantum physicist. This that appears to be what we will mutually agree to call a vase or a pan or a bowl or whatever. This is nothing but swirling nothing. Strings. There's a quantum level of the reality of this thing.
yes.
And your senses convert that quantum into an illusion. Go ask any decent physicist and they'll tell you, this thing here is 99.9999999% nothing at all. Created by my own consciousness, mind, senses, body, and the organs of this body. It is because I am. Whatever happens, happens because I am. Whatever happens, happens because you are. And what are you? You are life and you love it. And therefore you have brought all this into being to make yourself happy. Just funny, it's ironic. It's ironic. It's a joke, isn't it? Now you must understand this. Truly, you must understand this. Because unless you understand it, you will go on not using your body and mind wisely. You see? You won't use your body and mind wisely to really make your true self happy. Unless you understand, at least intellectually, who you are. Your I is not referencing ultimately this body. It's not referencing your emotions. It's not referencing your memories, your history, none of that crap. That I, most fundamentally, references life. It is the I of I am here. And you perceive everything else. You are beyond consciousness. Make a note. Are y'all ready for the radical dogma? Huh? You've been thinking you're consciousness. You're way beyond consciousness. You exist when you are unconscious. You do it every night. You got these things, all right? You're not conscious. Are you? Do you cease to exist?
No.
Because you are prior to consciousness. You're prior to time. You're prior to space. You're prior to causality. You follow me? When this thing drops away, nothing is gone that pertains to you. It is a profound revelation. And that's the revelation that the mystics bring to you. They tell you, you are that. That's who you are. We can call him God, if you like. But God and the self are one and the same thing. Unbelievable. Now, you can try to make philosophy out of that and you become what we call a Vichakyani. You see, you're just making more information out of it. It's not your experience, you see. It has to, that thing has to get rooted via solid. First, you must be able to even conceive it, but then you must actually have a taste of this thing. So you must sense who and what you are at the very deepest level. And whenever you do that, all that you discover is that you really love your life. And obviously, because that's what you are. You've been trying to love your body yourself. How you gonna love your body yourself? It's full of so many flaws. You love your personality yourself. How you gonna do that? You follow what I'm saying? That's what you mean when you say I love myself, right? You make a reference to you love your body, your mind, and your emotions, your personalities, your history, your dreams, your ambition. You see what you used to be and what you shall be, and you put the two together and you call that self. Right? And that's what you're trying to love. Right? Misidentification. Ignorance. And when you understand that clear and straightforward, you see it's no, and you use your body, mind wisely. Don't you? Or you should, or you will. There's tools, means, agencies, vehicles to love yourself, to make your true self happy. Does trying to make your ego and false self happy make your true self happy?
No.
No, doesn't matter.
Because you are all the time making your ego happy, right? But the true self is not being happy, right? I mean, you got the cars and the wife and all that. That made your ego self happy, didn't it? Damn, I got me a car. I got me 3 houses. Man, I got a fine wife or a fine husband, successful, powerful man. You know, women are into powerful men. You see, there's something very, you see, archetypical about it, atavistic almost. In the culture, we call it the big man syndrome. Most women suffer from that. So they want a big man because they define themselves in terms of their men. You know, my husband or my man, he's the CEO of this. You see?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. You see? Now, I'm not talking about big man syndrome or big woman syndrome. Some brothers suffer from the big woman syndrome. Oh, God. That's all. But do y'all understand what I'm saying to you here today? So been able to make the ego self happy by getting you a big man in your life, but that doesn't make the true self happy, right? You've been able to make the ego self happy. You got yourself 2 or 3 PhD, but that has not made the true self happy. Has it?
No.
No.
Right? You've been able to start a business and have power and all of that and influence, and that has made the ego self happy, but that has not made the true self happy. And so you are really unhappy in spite of the ego self happiness. Please make a note. You will always be unhappy in spite of the ego self success and happiness until you make the true self happy. Estamos sanando. Now, until you sit with all of this, you go on and telling yourself all kinds of lies. But at least today, on this day, I've done my part in trying to bring you out all this lying and self-denial and self-delusion that you're in. Why? Because I love you.
Amen.
Because the life that flows in you is the same life that flows in me.
Amen.
It is my life,
Amen.
and my life is your life. You see?
That's awesome.
And you cannot even begin to attempt to practice the principle of love of others until you love your true self. What kind of nonsense are you talking? That is why you have so much difficulty trying to engage in the disciplines of the Bodhisattva, you see, or in the activities of the karmapas, you see, men and women involved in the activity of compassion and love toward all sentient beings. You can't do that. You have a hard time because you're trying to practice karmapa with egos.
Absolutely.
Aren't you?
Yes.
You're trying to love each other at the level of ego. That's because that's the level you are on. You identify with being your ego, your likes, your dislikes, your opinions, your history, your mood, moment to moment, and you presume that's also what's true about the other person. You project onto them. Don't you?
Right.
So you're trying to find something lovable about the other person's ego, and you're having a hard. Right? Well, it's bound to fail. You can't, I mean, you can be a fake Buddha. You can't be no real Buddha. Fake Jesus, an imitation of Muhammad. You see? Bad imitations of that. You see? Thomas A. Kempis tried to come up with the imitation of Christ. Wrote a famous book on that. In fact, Imitation of Christ became a bestseller. It still is. Only the Bible sells more than the Imitation of Christ. But it's just that. Because how can you imitate Christ without Christ consciousness? I mean, really, how are you going to do that? So this love of the true self is the foundation and the prerequisite for the love of others. So stop pretending that you love other people. Don't pretend. Remove that from your rhetoric. And rather than waste all this time and energy pretending that you love other people, instead, use that time, energy, and attention and learn how to love your true self.
Okay.
Because that's who you really love.
Amen.
To thy own self be,
True.
Okay.
not to thy own ego be true. That's what y'all practice. Right? Is that about right?
That's right.
To thy own true self. Life. You are life. You are this life. Just that. Unfathomable. You follow me? Incomprehensible. Miraculous. the source of all that comes into your experience. Is that all right? Would you be experiencing this world if you weren't alive?
No.
I mean, if time would have permitted, perhaps, fortunately, you all are sophisticated people, so therefore it's probably not even necessary. But I certainly could present you with all of the arguments from quantum mechanics, medicine, physiology, biology. You see, all of the quote-unquote hard sciences. I can stand this argument, not just on the shoulders of a Buddha or Mahavira or Kabir or Tadu or Swamiji. I can stand it on general relativity theory, special theory, image theory, right?
Amen.
I can stand it on Newtonian physics. I can stand it on the math. Now we can go through all that, or you can just take my word.
Take your word.
And not even take my word, that's a misnomer. Because it's not about you taking my word, it's not about you giving me any kind of blind belief. That's not how we operate here. I offer you an experiment, conduct it, see for yourself. You don't have to take my word about nothing. All right. You don't have to believe nothing about me. You see, whether I'm enlightened, whether I'm this, and whether I'm that. Don't even waste your time with all of that stuff. You see my point? Because, first of all, if I was or was not enlightened, you're in no position to tell me. What is the point of this question? I mean, it's a pointless
That's right.
consideration. But here's an experiment. Do it and see for yourself. And if you're earnest, that's what you'll do. If you're not earnest, then you will simply be engaging in the same thing that people do in all the lower levels. Is that about right?
Amen.
Prove the truth of what I'm saying with words. In real science, in the pursuit of real knowledge, science, I mean, this is absurd. You see? Einstein does not give a lecture to prove his special theory. He gives you the math and the experimental model. And the outcome of others who have done the same thing. Go do the math. That's where this term comes from. Go do the math. If you don't know how to do the math, I'll teach you the math, but go do the math.
Amen.
Yourself. So whether you believe it or not, that's what you are. And that's hard to deny that you are alive. And let me see y'all pull that off. Let me see anybody, how many of y'all got doubt that you're alive? Anybody? Well, others got doubt about you whether you're alive. But I'm talking about, do you have any doubt?
Right.
Tight. Tight. And if you are life, then the whole argument that represents and makes up the Dharma follows naturally. Natural. And inevitably. And necessarily. Yes, beloved, and this will be our last question.
I'm feeling real
Just
giddy.
having a field day over
Yeah.
there, huh?
So the namaste, when you give us, from my egoic level, the practice of looking and namasteing somebody, looking in their eyes, looking in my own eyes, the thing that I am to recognize got nothing to do with nothing metaphysical. I simply see life when I look in your eyes.
Life. Just like you look at that tree. That's life. And it's the same life that is flowing through this body mind. It is only one life manifested in me.
Amen.
Had quam I see thou that. Identical life. That's what you see. Such a simple sin.
Yes.
Y'all cocking y'all eye. I got about 5, 10 emails. I can't see both my eyes. What? See what I'm doing? See what I go through here? It's a real simple thing. Look and see life. That's what you are. Life. Life. See beyond this body. See beyond the color of your eye. Get past the pimple on you. Some of you can't even do the namaste. Ooh, I got a Simply see you are life. How can you not see that you are just life? Period. And that you exist, whether you're waking, sleeping, dreaming, not dreaming, or sleeping at all. That you exist, whether there's consciousness of something or not. You exist. You are eternal. You are prior to all time. When there is no time, you exist. You exist before time. You are kepara. You brought your own body, mind into being. You see? Out of your life. Put a word, a power in your mouth, and brought your own body into being, in the body of everything else. We're going to continue this line of argument.
Amen.
If somebody can find a place for me to come back to a little later this evening. We'll be able to come back here either later. But in all respect to our guests, I will have to close that to just those who've been initiated. Because there's just some things that we can't say for those who are not in any position to take advantage of it, and I don't want to frustrate you. You know what I mean?
Amen.
I don't want to do to you what America does. That thing with carrots in front of you and you ain't got no carrots, makes one violent. But certainly there will be future occasions, I'm sure. Or who knows, maybe one day you too will consider conducting the experiment. So, with that said, Prashant. And of course, our guest today, I will still be here for a while just for you. And I will find some place out there. It would be my greatest honor if you would stop by and say hello, so forth and so on. Just the guests. And those brandasi that have something for me or some business with me needs to encroach upon that time. So I want to spend times with the guests. You see? Because they have come here for some food today. And a lot of times I bring food, but you all make a mess of it. You take little bites and then throw it away, but some of these guests who have come here today, these folks are hungry. And value this dollar that you take for granted. You see? So I want to spend some time with the guests so that they too may bring their suffering to you. Is that fair enough, Radasi?
Yes.
You want to encroach since they're not encroaching upon you? You know what I mean? So don't crash.